Dear boomers, before I leave the topic of commune living back in the late 60s, early 70s, I would be remiss if I didn't touch on the topics of sex, drugs, rock and roll, of tuning in, turning on, dropping out, which was the Timothy Leary plea to the youth, which really was annoying to every parent alive at the time. And tuning in means being aware, turning on means psychedelics, and dropping out, which is what we all did. Or so we thought, of course. But we dropped out. We dropped out of society, and we were took very seriously the whole idea of living off the land and sharing with our fellow commune people, and living a lifestyle that was completely opposite from what our parents thought we should be doing. There's a movie that I just wanted to mention between Ram Dass and Timothy Leary many years after they kind of broke up. Timothy Leary was kind of wild and dramatic. He got himself into a lot of trouble with drugs. He was busted. He was put in jail. Ram Dass was Timothy's colleague at Harvard, and at the time he was Richard Alpert before he became Ram Dass. Now, you people might all know about this, but let me just say that they went two different paths. Two different paths. They were not diverging paths. Ram Dass went to India and got a guru. He had done a lot of psychedelics, and purely for the reason to understand who he was as a human being. So that was Ram Dass. Timothy Leary just became, just flirting with the law, getting thrown into jail, meeting women, marrying them, and getting divorced. So finally, Timothy Leary became diagnosed with, I don't know what cancer, but it was such a cancer that it was going throughout his whole body. He called his buddy Ram Dass to help him understand what life was all about. What did the psychedelic movement really mean? Especially as he approached death, he wanted to discuss the meaning of death and life and enlightenment with his old pal Ram Dass, Richard Alpert. I think he kept calling him Richard throughout the movie. It's one of the best movies. It's called Dying to Know. It's on Gaia. I actually bought it at some point, and I think that is in my catalog of movies that I bought, but it is great. Okay. See that movie, Dying to Know. They didn't really know. Timothy Leary didn't really know what was going to happen when he died. That's why he sent his body into outer space. Very dramatic guy. Very, very, very innovative, outside the box. But he really suffered for it. So, okay, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There is no music more enlightening, more powerful than the music that came out of my generation. The music of, all of them, Janis Joplin, um, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and Getting Back to the Garden. We all thought that somehow we would go back to the Garden of Eden. We were into utopia. And that was, a lot of us were into that. A lot of us were doing LSD not to just have fun. In fact, it wasn't that much fun. We were doing it to become enlightened. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The rock and roll mixed with psychedelics was an amazingly enlightened experience. And when I listen to those beautiful songs now, it reminds me of getting really out there with the drugs and the music. There's no doubt about it. It's part of our generation. We can't deny it, and we cannot pretend it didn't happen. But in that process of pretending it didn't happen, a lot of us sold out. We didn't want to tell our soon to be employers what we had done. And, you know, I was talking to my friend about this last night, and he is a younger cohort boomer, and he said something very interesting. We were satellite hippies. We weren't totally involved in the flower child thing in the San Francisco, because when we got there, we were a little late for that. We there were satellite movements of hippies that we were a part of. We were not wealthy, as so many people in Haight Ashbury were. The musicians were wealthy. We were the opposite of wealthy. We had no money. So, so then we accused the people who were sort of hippies, and then they go back into mainstream society. We called them sellouts. Now, that's not a very kind thing to call anybody, but what were they selling out? They were selling out the dream. They were selling out the utopian vision of what life is, how we envisioned it when we were very, very high on LSD. Selling out was quite the thing, and the people who sold out and climbed the ladder of success never wanted to admit their days as hippies. And I must say, when I became a nurse, I very, very rarely talked about my gallivanting days as a really free-spirited person, and also a person who was not embraced by society. How did I rehabilitate myself from that? Because I didn't sell out, but I did go to nursing school. Eventually, I did go to AA, because after those dogs were all shot by the Republican neighbor who hated hippies, I became a blackout drunk. So that was part of my history, and I needed to rehabilitate myself, not just in nursing school, but really with Alcoholics Anonymous, a wonderful spiritual program. Dying to know is, I think we all are dying to know what it is that we're here. What's it all about, Alfie? Our dog Alfie, but that movie with, what's it all about, Alfie? And I forget his name. A wonderful, wonderful movie. What's it all about, Alfie? We used to sing that song when our dog Alfie would gaze into our eyes. What is it all about? And we're dying to know, what is it all about? So a lot of us, go to retreats. We have spiritual teachers. Some of us have gurus. A lot of the people who were friendly with Ram Dass also went to India, and they became very close with his guru, even though his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, did not want anybody to know about his existence. But Ram Dass could not hide that treasure away from the world and all of his friends. And then they all pretty much stopped drugs, I think. I'm not sure, possibly. But the main thing is they went a different direction. They did not buy into corporate America, but they did do a lot of good deeds to the world. Trying to save children who are blind just by raising money. It only cost a few cents a day. One of their commune, or one of their cohorts, was a doctor, and he helped to eradicate smallpox in India. Huge undertaking. These people are just amazing, and I love them. The whole Ram Dass movement. Ram Dass passed. He had a major stroke, and he went to Maui to live, and Wayne Dyer was responsible for getting him a place to live there, and then a whole community arose to help him with money and such, and he became, egoless. He did not, take care of the stroke in a timely manner. As we now know, if you take care of strokes within the first 90 minutes of symptoms, you might be able to pull out. But he worked hard, and he decided he could not. He decided to embrace his wheelchair and to live in the present moment. Be here now was the Ram Dass thing. Be here now was the book of the 70s that actually was kind of biblical in nature. We followed that book, and we would go to Ram Dass lectures in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and in Boston, Massachusetts, when we were living there. So let me just say that I had to touch upon these topics before moving on. I recalled another story with my friend today, and I will tell that tomorrow. It's about becoming a guide on a river rafting trip in Northern California. It's wonderful. So please subscribe to the channel. Love to you all. Bye-bye.